Andrew Callahan, aka Channel 5, the last person to debate Charlie Kirk, parentheses, exclusive interview. This is crazy. You know, the person who went up to talk to Charlie Kirk, there's no way he can say anything like negative about Kirk, right? Because like he can't come up here and say like, yeah, I'm glad he's dead, because he would see so much hate for it. He would get dogpiled. They'd kill his ass.
So my name is Hunter. I was debating.
Hunter!
I was in the middle of.
What kind of rifle took Charlie out? I'm not saying anything. I am, however, noticing.
Debating Charlie Kirk in the middle of the assassination at Utah Valley University.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
What brought you to the event that day?
Last words, racial dog whistling. How many mass shootings are there? Including blacks or no?
I make videos on Charlie Kirk, and I made this video about the statistical analysis on trans shooters. And sort of the point that I was trying to make was that it's sort of a statistical outlier, that they're extremely underrepresented when it comes to how peaceful they are. Obviously, that question, pretty ironic given when it was given. Yeah, so
Poor kid. Pretty much, no matter what he says, I'm not gonna like, unless he says something really cringe, I'm not gonna make fun of him, because like he was 10 feet away from some guy when he exploded, you know?
Mostly came in there because Charlie's very open about having some sort of dialogue or some sort of conversation that, you know, he believes in engaging. And I'm pretty on the record of how much I disagree with him, but I do definitely respect how much he's willing to platform voices to ensure that, you know, at least some semblance of a good conversation can come out of it.
Some semblance is doing a lot of work there.
Mm-hmm. And as far as these like statistical anomaly thing when it comes to trans shooters, is that in response to the way that him and Turning Point were framing that as like a big issue?
So it was about 3 weeks ago. There was a trans shooter at a Catholic church. Charlie made a bunch of tweets basically saying
that picture flashbanging all the trans women in the audience. Sorry, I've seen the discourse.
Like, when are we going to start noticing that this is a trend? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting my math degree.
The Akira memory. Yeah.
Akira. That was my university, and I was like, there's an answer to that. There's, you know, we can determine if there's some sort of outliers. We can use p-values, things like that. And I was like, according to the data, it really doesn't pan out that there is a trend here at all. So I kind of made a video calling him out a little bit and saying, hey, I want to come debate you. I want to come do it. And a lot of people were kind of encouraging me. So I kind of wanted to come and have my, I guess my little audience see that.
Mm-hmm. How was the energy whenever you arrived to the event?
Very conservative, for sure. Everyone was very energetic. Chanting Trump, chanting USA.
Yeah, normally when Charlie Kirk has these appearances, the crowd's really adversarial, but this was more of a rally, right? Like, I usually everyone there, they're there to, you know, push back or whatever. This one, it's in Utah, you know, it's more more agreeable to his demographic.
Bring the best libs that Utah has to offer.
There was a line of liberals on the rooftop who were holding like pride flags and I think some like Palestine flags and things like that.
And some other stuff.
You know, there was a little bit of taunting back and forth, but not very out of hand. Most of the debaters were either like asking questions like who's better, LeBron or Jordan, or like some like theological debates about distinctions between like Mormonism and Christians.
That shit was so funny to me because I saw bits of it too, and it really is like a bunch of anxious, insecure Mormons, all of whose like fascist thought leaders are evangelicals or Catholics, being like, okay, so like having a totally different religion doesn't mean we're not going to go to the same heaven, right, guys? The fact that we follow like a completely different theological scripture with its entirely different rules and expectations, that's not like we're all like together in this, right?
Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God over all. Christ is king.
But Christ was fully mortal. He didn't live a. What do you mean by perfect life? Christ was both fully mortal and fully divine. He was fully man and fully divine. If to be that kind of depends. That there's some interpretation differences there. You can't bridge a gap with a statement like that.
Also, the event lasted, I want to say 20 minutes, maybe. Like, I really didn't get a good finger on the pulse on what an event would really look like, because I mean,
He never sinned during his time. Yeah, but never sinning isn't the same as a perfect life. Like, I feel like a perfect life is a kind of like divine ascription, which kind of contradicts a little bit the idea that he was fully met. Never mind.
Up fairly early. I was the second person to speak there, so like, you know, the first person was maybe 10 minutes, and I maybe got like less than a minute in. So,
could you give us kind of a recap of how that conversation with Charlie went?
To Christians, being sinless is a perfect life. Yeah, but Christians think we all have original sin, and also everyone sins at some point. No Christian believes that a life can be fully without sin. There's the sort of a, listen, it's religion. It's all fake, okay? I'm not going to argue with you, okay? The idea that Jesus Christ led a perfect life in those words is, to put it lightly, not like settled doctrine across Mormonism, Christianity, Catholicism, evangelicism, and Catholicism and Orthodoxy, okay? It's a subject.
Sure.
Yeah, this is working. Hey, Charlie. Hey, hopefully we're going to have a little bit more disagreement.
So it was, I came in and I said, hey, there was a shooting that happened maybe a few weeks ago in Minneapolis.
And ever since then, about 3 weeks later, the Trump DOJ said that we should start talking about revoking gun rights for transgender Americans. Now,
great crowd. Great crowd.
Do you think, is that, you agree with this? Is that a fair assessment or something like that? And he said yes. And then I said...
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
This guy's mocking the crowd, by the way. Stone cold.
And I said, there's 5. And I said, do you know how many shootings there have been? I think maybe my memory's a little hazy. I haven't rewatched the videos, honestly. But it was something like this, which I knew the answer was, it was a little under 6,000. He said something like, we need to account for gang violence. And I think I was like, I was in the middle of saying, great, did you run a statistical analysis on that, right? Like essentially saying you have the burden of proof. And I think I was in the middle of saying that when he got shot.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
I remember that. Thank you.
I went down pretty immediately, and everyone near me, everyone in the rest of my line, who I'd been talking to for the last like few hours, dropped down with me. I remember I have a brother who was in a school shooting, and I was talking about the distinction between these, that like for me, it was there wasn't as much fear as I think.
Oh, you're talking about one of their fundamental beliefs, Jesus, Lord of perfect life. Okay. Well, maybe I've misheard the perfect life thing. It's irrelevant to the broader point. I'm being disagreeable for no reason. I'll fully take the L on any theological arguments, unless the argument is about like non-metaphysical bullshit, in which case I'll happily argue the details. I will say, and I'm not backing off this claim, it is really funny for a bunch of Mormons to line up and anxiously make sure that their favorite evangelical fascist still thinks they're going to heaven, you know? Like any of them believe anything anyway.
Would expect, because I recognized immediate, like I think I was a lot more logical than I thought I would be in that moment, where I was like, that's an assassination. He is the target. He is the only target. I am freaked out, but I know that I'm okay. Whatever. It definitely became chaotic. My wife was in the crowd. I tried reaching her. It took me like 20, 30 minutes. Just a lot of chaos as like, I sort of shifted in a weird place, and then I had to wrap back around, and I couldn't find her, and our phones weren't really working, and it was bombarded by texts, and I don't know. So it was very chaotic, and it took a while to really orient myself. But it was a strange environment because people were kind of milling around afterward. I think a lot of people had this similar idea that it's like, this is different. An assassination is very different from a mass shooting, where a mass shooting you disperse, right? Everyone's a target. But when it comes to an assassination, it's everyone just sort of was there. And I heard a number of people say like, so much for the taunted left, right? Like the 2 or 3 people.
Me, when I watch a guy get slimed right in front of me live, historical moment. So much for the tolerant left. Just scrolling through like my notes app list of all the like bumper sticker slogans I'm aware of.
said that as they walked by.
And what do you think about that assessment?
I made this video a little while ago. I've been following, sounds crazy, I've been following Charlie Kirk for a little while. I went to Tampa, Florida for one of his events. I remember I was just basically interviewing some of these, some of his followers, and I found this girl, and she seemed so young and bright, ignorant for sure, dumb, I would probably say. I'm like, I'll be honest, dumb, but I was just asking her questions, and I started bringing up, I'm like, oh, liberals would say, and then I would give my argument, right?
You know, someone can go get like a whole surgery done.
Dumb just because she has a cowboy hat? Okay.
You know, without parent approval. It's like, how is that even happening? How are they going to the doctor's appointments without the parents there?
And then, like, I know I've seen parents on social media where they're like, oh, I haven't identified my kid yet, and it scares me because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, they're gonna
Yeah, I think dumb might be an accurate description here.
grow up thinking that they don't know what they are, or like that they could transition into something else. And
But wouldn't that be transitioning with parent approval?
yeah, that's what I'm like saying, like, to take away. Does that make sense?
But if they have parent approval, it sounds like you're talking about parents who give approval that they should be trans.
She was like, that's such an interesting thing. I've never thought of that, right? She gave, and I was like...
Again, like, I've said this many times, but one of the big political reckonings that we're just going to have to deal with is the acknowledgement that our enemies are, by and large, at very least, like, supported by a mass of low IQ, proudly ignorant, borderline illiterate, dumb fucks, right? Like genuinely, you can't get past that. It's just like, it's considered rude to say, but like, this is the case historically. Like, what if there was a political disagreement back in the 1930s, back when not as many Americans were literate, don't you think it would be relevant to bring up to a party supported overwhelmingly by literate people that if the other side is overwhelmingly supported by illiterate people, that might be something you have to factor in with your rhetoric? We should acknowledge the fact they are stupid, you know? A lot of them aren't even that hateful. Like, it's crazy, but a lot of them just aren't. They're just really vulnerable to misinformation, you know? Isn't this literally something Marx talked about? Yep. I love it when people on social media are like, Marx never considered that uneducated, illiterate proletarians might prefer satiating meaningless cultural issues over class solidarity. And it's like, man, that's like the main thing he talked about, dude. That was like 90%. Outside of the economic analysis, that was like the main thing he was talking about.
I'm so, like, I was like, cut, that's so perfect. I'm so glad I captured that like the conservative person was so clearly just kind of needed to hear the right thing and maybe got bumped in the right direction. And I posted it feeling so confident, and 90% of the comments were about how fat she was. And I really felt like what am I contributing to?
Oh, well, in fairness, that's probably the level of analysis that she would get into online as well, right? Like, she would probably be the first person on social media to be like, well, this Democrat official is fat and ugly, or like, this one's gay, or that, who was that trans health official or DOD official that I'm thinking of from the Biden administration, that fat trans woman? Am I thinking of the right person?
In this culture. And like, in some ways, I'm extremely proud of the left. I'm extremely proud of the people that I've met organizing. And
you said Nazis don't believe in the rhetoric. Why is there a correlation to the right wing and school shooters? Nazis don't believe in the ideology of Nazism overwhelmingly, because there's a lot to that ideology. What they believe in are a set of core emotional principles that allow them to use tribalism to reorient their thinking and blame people for their problems in life. Nazism is like an easy one they all fall into because it is very hateful, very emotionally satisfying to the people who fall into it, and it has like a bunch of pre-existing conspiracies that can explain why everything isn't going your way. It's like the path of least resistance for a lot of these people. But that doesn't make them like ideological adherents. If you take the average fascist, they're just emotionally motivated. You can't sit them down and have them defend the principles of fascism. They wouldn't even know what you're talking about, you know?
And being in these conversations, and I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. And I would also say that the right definitely has its issue with violence, right? We talk about political violence, like, you know, Gretchen Whitmer, Josh Shapiro, Paul Pelosi, you know, I could go on and on. But like, I am startled very often by how quick people are.
Nick Fuentes himself isn't stupid. He's like hateful and a bad person. He's not stupid. He's not low IQ. And it probably like annoys him a little bit that what he wants to do is have a lucrative career based off of hatred that he can then leverage into a cosmopolitan lifestyle of gay sex and like gender cosplay, right? But in reality, the way he makes his money forces him to be associated with a massive orbit of obscenely hateful, low IQ, embarrassing, right? He wants to be able to separate himself from that. But the problem is, you can only do that if you're like a genteel Southern politician, right? You can go preach to the hateful crowds and then go back to your plantation home, have a mint julep, and enjoy, classical opera yourself. You can hang out in your own crowds. But as a live streamer, you can't do that. Unfortunately, as a live streamer, if you are farming your support off of hateful morons, you have to be adjacent to those hateful morons 24/7, at least while you're doing your work. You can't distance yourself from it. You're not like an old-timey politician. Does that make sense? That's why he's like that. But he doesn't want to engage with that, because who would? God, can you imagine? Can you imagine being in a social environment where all of your friends and associates are like groypers? Oh my God. Like, just beyond the ethics of it, it would be annoying. That's why so many of these school shooters are right-wing. They're socially dysfunctional,
Grab onto like righteous violence. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I understand his
Fuentes is the straight Vaush. Buddy, if anything, I'm the straight Fuentes.
Assessment when he says so much for the tolerant left, like that's kind of in some ways, a lot of things that I've seen.
Was there something you saw in particular that you were like, man, that's too far?
Yeah, about Charlie? Mm-hmm. Or, I mean, I saw someone post like, proud to be a UVU alum today. And like, it's also people in my hallways, right, who are just maybe a little bit terminally online. But like, I don't know, I've for sure seen some, why am I gonna be sad? I'm glad he's in the grave. A lot of comments like that.
Nah, real shit though, how do we know that Charlie Kirk didn't die of a fentanyl overdose? You feel me? Like, we gotta wait on the toxicology report to come out, because, okay, we might have saw a gunshot and shit, but we also saw somebody put their knee on somebody else's neck, and we saw other people still say that person died of fentanyl overdose.
What was some of the rhetoric you saw online that was like particularly insane to see? What kind of things were he saying?
Seeing people...
It's pretty difficult to like condemn people for behaving like that when the right has been doing it nonstop for years. Like, the right still, not just random people online, they're politicians, the president, all of them argue that George Floyd died for reasons unrelated to having a neck pressed into the back of his neck for however, so was 7-9 minutes, odd number around that ballpark. Like, it's just pretty difficult to be sympathetic about shit posting in the opposite direction. The difference, though, is that the right wing actually believes it. Whereas the people on the left saying, well, his neck just did that, are shitposting. So I would say that even here, in this moment, still pretty difficult to equate the two.
And comments on like big news pages that are like, yeah, well, anyways, what's for dinner? Or, well, this is karma. Mm-hmm. Like, this was deserved. Nobody deserves to be shot.
Sometimes I wish I had dark hair so I could pull off a thin mustache. I would love to be mistaken for like Zillennial neo-Nazi when walking down the street. Unfortunately, I have a full beard and large glasses, so I'm not quite in that camp, Dye that shit. I don't want to dye my beard.
It's karma. Mm-hmm. Like, this was deserved. Nobody deserves to be shot and killed. Nobody. Doesn't matter if they're Democratic Party, Republic Party, does not matter. Yeah. Nobody deserves to be shot and killed in front of their family. Yeah. No one.
How do we get to this point where it's so divided we can't even...
Buddy. It'd always be the divisive people asking how we got so divided. It's always the drama queens saying they hate drama.
Look at the other party, So it's disappointing, Yeah. It's shocking.
So you monitored the online discourse in the immediate aftermath of the shooting?
First few hours, I for sure
that's enough time.
Democrats own what happened today.
Bro, I'd be so pressed if this guy shot me.
Yeah.
So you kind of I saw like two different narratives on the right. They were like, all right, this is the turning point from the left. Like, they have officially gone haywire. I think Alex Jones and Owen Schroyer said, we are all Charlie Kirk. And then, I think libs of TikTok said, this is war. So it was like the, spawn point for like a larger domestic conflict that's going to be apparently spearheaded by the left. But there was a lot of people that I saw celebrating the death, saying like this is what he deserves for his rhetoric about Gaza and immigration, and they pointed to some of his quotes where I think one quote said, it was something like, "I'm willing to accept gun violence and gun deaths as a natural byproduct of the freedoms that we have with our Second Amendment." And there was just a couple different things where people were making it seem like this was a symbolic victory for the left. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty adamant, and I don't shy away from how much I dislike the things that Charlie says.
If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence?
I disagree with him on 1,000 different fronts.
The problem with showing clips of Charlie Kirk being awful is that any amount you show will understate how awful he is. We're talking about a decade of consistent media presence where he is made, like, that's an everyday thing. You know what I mean? Like, we're like, you genuinely, people are just scraping the surface, man. The very, very, very surface.
And I feel like, I don't know why it's so hard to not hold that in one hand and in the other hand hold, that's a human being, that's a father of 2 children, right? Like that both of those can fully coexist.
It's again, he can't really say anything else, right? Because if he said anything else, they would get his ass
at the same time. And in some ways,
He's
I have a lot of
probably aware of
respect
that fact.
for Charlie Kirk for being so open to debate, for being such an incredible organizer. Like, I think as someone who's interested in political organization, that's something that I've always found really admirable about him. But like, he's about my age. He's got a 1-year-old boy. I've got a 1-year-old boy. I've got.
Did you see Shuan had saying Charlie Kirk is more moderate right-wing coworker beliefs? Yeah, but Shu only says that because she hangs out with a bunch of like embarrassing Curtis Yarvin types. Like that, like that's something they like to say. It's the same as that, like, Charlie Kirk is the dam holding back the based and red-pilled Sonengrad, you know, or a neo-Nazi or whatever. Like they're all the types of people to write think pieces about how they have the high IQ version of your average Appalachian redneck who thinks whites and blacks can't get along. Like they're all self-consciously talking about how, like, having tested for 112 IQ when they were in elementary school means that they're the ideological visionaries of the right. It's not like, to them, sure, Charlie Kirk is moderate, but usually it's because they don't even understand. Charlie Kirk was the farthest right you could be, advocating for the things they believe in. It's like the Nick Fuentes Charlie Kirk division. Like, Charlie Kirk believed the same shit Nick Fuentes did. They weren't different. Nick Fuentes chose a cult audience. Charlie Kirk chose like mass appeal. But that doesn't mean that Charlie Kirk was more moderate. It just means that he was always pushing like the furthest he could on the limit. And Charlie Kirk's views did get more radical over time. Back in 2000, like 18, 19, Charlie Kirk was a lot more moderate in what he said. But as the right got more and more powerful, Charlie Kirk could get away with saying more and more, especially after there were no consequences after J6. So, like, that's not because Charlie Kirk was radicalized to the right magically as soon as it became possible for him to get away with being more right-leaning. It's because he was always that right-leaning, and he would have sent us to the death camps, and he was waiting for the opportunity to, and he was pushing the envelope as far as he could, day after day, year after year.
You know, we're about the same height, and like, I think about how that boy is not going to have any memories of his dad. And that to me is like that's everything. That's
They don't understand that outside of the TikToks and Instagram reels that they see of him disagreeing with what they believe is a father of 2 kids.
Yeah. I can't engage with this rhetoric. It's just so it's just so low IQ. It's everyone is a relative of someone else. That's how being born works. My brother in Christ, that came with the process of being fermented in a womb. Yeah, okay.
And a son of a mother, that their kids are going to bed tonight. His kids are going to bed tonight without a father, and his wife is going to bed without a husband.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is just it's sickening. It's sickening to see that this is really what it's come to, and people really think that like this is what they have to do to get a point across.
Additionally, I mean, the conditions that created Charlie Kirk's views are still existent.
Yeah.
The undercurrents that led to all of the opinions you disagree with, and
you ever consider Hitler had a dog? No, I'd never thought of that.
The left disagrees with. You know, it's you can eliminate Charlie Kirk, you know, but it doesn't take away the rhetoric that led to Charlie Kirk.
I think that's what's so irritating about this. Like, on the one hand, This is evil. This is tragic. This shouldn't have happened. On the secondary hand, if you're not even convinced by that first argument, it's also counterproductive. That doesn't even do anything. He's a conservative commentator. He doesn't even have, like, Trump has been given every opportunity right now to crack down on the violent left.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today.
And that, like, my whole point about making a video about how nonviolent we are only can exist if we stay nonviolent. It just doesn't solve anything either. Like, I don't understand how you walk away from that. Like, what did you solve at all? Everyone is now more angry and justified in their anger.
But people aren't talking about this as though it solved something. People are talking about this as though, like, they're celebrating the death of an evil man. Those are two separate things. Those are two different things.
Or at least more so than before. And I just I don't know, I get so angry at these wannabe activists, these assholes, these disturbing, evil, I don't know.
I think that one of the key words is antisocial.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm not saying that, you know, I grew up around a bunch of violence, but I've seen shootings before.
Yeah.
I've lost people to gun violence, whether it be in the street or from police. A few people in high school and past that.
Andrew Auld, I just talked about it like a second ago. Thank you.
So to me, it's something horrible. Universally should be recognized as a bad thing, but there's this weird kind of antisocial undercurrent that I think is running through, like, early Gen Z, like 18 to 22. I'm not sure if it was because they were socialized during COVID and they missed, like, a bunch of formative years, but the things that they're tweeting about the situation and just their dissociation to, like, the horrific violent imagery, to be able to watch something like that and be like, hell yeah, that's dope.
Buddy, the entire right wing has been doing that with Gaza for 2.5 years now. No, sorry, 2 years, sorry. Again, this isn't, like, the desensitization thing. They're, like, right now, every single white 55-year-old Republican screams frothing at the mouth for cops to crack down on black protesters harder. Every time they see a clash in the police, they're like, fire to get them! Get their asses! Like, the idea that the desensitization to violence is brought about by, like, a wave of antisociality happening now with young people is just not... I don't think that tracks.
That indicates some kind of antisocial, psychotic, sociopathic disorder.
Like, literally at the RNC, everyone was waving deport 20 million people. Like, these are Holocaust numbers, more than Holocaust numbers. Like, they were waving signs. We're talking about, like, there's a difference between people being blasé about the death of Hitler and like, Hitler, the Nazi party.
Sure, and, like, whatever.
Why do I have to keep repeating this, man? Why? It's crazy. I don't understand. I don't get it.
When your belief basically ostracizes anyone who disagrees with you and you have no one left standing, it makes sense that you don't have a lot of connection, so maybe you lose that human value. I don't know if that makes sense.
Say it one more time.
Like, I think it's become very common now to cut off your parents or cut off your siblings if they say maybe the wrong thing or sort of come across things.
Dude, off. Why are we what is this conservative talking point shit? Like, oh man, the liberals will cut off anyone. There are lots of fascists in this country. The political agenda here is not like tax reform, okay? It's mass deportations, which involves separating millions of people from their families. We're talking about the eradication of queer people, of calling them degenerates and pedophiles. Over, like, a significant portion of youth homeless are gay people who have been disowned by their parents. Why are we pretending? What is this, man?
It's a little different. And, you know, you cut these people off and then you go, you know, you're left standing and you're an island. It makes sense that you're like, well, what is a father really?
And you guys are all like 18 to 22 range, right?
Yeah.
Is he a pretty popular figure among your guys' demographic?
Yeah, I mean, if you go on, especially TikTok, he's everywhere. So even though it's someone I've never met, it's someone who I feel like I've been almost consuming his content for a long time. And so it's a familiar face that we're losing, and he's someone that shares a lot of the same values that we share, religiously and politically in a lot of ways. And so he was very devoted, and you have to appreciate devotion because he was trying to... You do not in fact have to hand it to ISIS, the Taliban? build a better society for his family, his young family.
Well, okay, well, there's the thing then. He wasn't. But you can't. Listen, apolitically, we can at least appreciate his devotion to the cause. Also, the cause was good. Well, then we're not evaluating him on apolitical grounds, are we?
And at the end of the day, people can have their opinions, and people do. There's extremists on both sides. But this is really an opportunity for everyone to kind of mend and realize what happened and mourn before we go on, and take a moment to realize what has happened and what we can do to prevent like just certain things like this in the future. I mean,
it does sometimes feel like I am one of the few, definitely not the only, but certainly maybe a minority of the left that really cares still about life or family or.
Why do we have to cede so much ground, man? Why do we have to, like, when I look at the left, there are a lot of people online across the political spectrum who are irreverent and antisocial, but literally all of the political power right now is held by the right, and they are so openly, wantonly evil. Like, there is no mitigation to this. There's no credit given or anything. There's no benefit of the doubt. They're just like openly celebrating evil and hatred and violence nonstop. And on the left, what do we have? Democrats who do nothing. And then what? Like frustrated college kids, queer people, black people who don't like the fact that they're constantly scapegoated. Like the president of the United States every single day goes up and dog whistles about them in front of the cameras. Like what? And you expect them to be irreverent or not to be irreverent about the death of one of their most like aggressive hate preachers? It's just it's ridiculous. You're not special for feeling empathy. I would argue actually that people on the left who are being irreverent about Charlie Kirk are far more empathetic than anyone who's doing this performative distancing from the left, okay? We're not talking about empathy to human beings here. Well, maybe we are, but like, what about the empathy for the people who've been hurt by Charlie's ideology, you know?
America, I don't know.
No, it's a good point you made. Like these political divisions have infected people's family dynamics, and it's become more important in those bonds. So you have, you hear it all the time, especially if you're in like a hipster neighborhood. You hear someone be like, "Oh, my dad voted for Trump. He's such a piece of shit. I can't wait to chew him out at Thanksgiving," if they're even going.
Okay, what's wrong with that? Like genuine, like leaving aside the partisanship, what is wrong with that? Morally, what is wrong with being related to a person who has materially supported fascism, an ideology that covets death and destruction, deportation, alienation, and saying like, I am upset with them for that, and I want to talk to them about those political beliefs they have. I want to chew them out for it. Can somebody explain like what is wrong with that?
Whereas, you know, it's not saying you shouldn't have a political discussion with your
like I'm honestly
uncle.
all for chewing out your
Okay, I'm glad we agree on this.
dad if you disagree. Like I don't know.
Chew out your dad, but don't abandon your dad.
Yeah.
Especially if you're
No, the dude. What the? You're like a gay kid, and your dad is ooh-rahing to the in Florida, them like eradicating memorials to the victims of a queer club shooting or whatever. Like what the? If your family's full of pieces of shit, you can cut them out. That's fine. I guess maybe Callahan would have something, you know, a particular bias on this subject, what with, you know, him having been canceled and all. It is, in fact, okay to separate yourself from people in your life. Dude, like, come on. A bunch of the people watching this right now have Republican family members. You know what they're like. It's not pretend that they're like normal, perfect, loving people moment to moment, and they just incidentally believe in fascism on their, you know, on their off days or whatever. Come on.
Dad's in like a Facebook QAnon hole. Try to figure out how he got there.
No, for sure.
And maybe if you can give him enough love where you can pull him out.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I just, I do maybe genuinely feel, and like whatever, conversation isn't everything, right? There's a lot more that comes to politics than just conversation. But like, Charlie was certainly onto something there that like, conversation does fuel quite a bit of.
They think your conservative dad is basically Hank Hill. Yeah, see, like it's so out of date. Yeah, like your dad just has like earnest different opinions about tax policy, trickle down economics. Or we're like, no, come on. What does the MAGA movement preach? Like, what are they talking about? What are they advocating for? Why are we pretending? Why are we doing this?
It fuels something that I think we've, I don't know, maybe discarded.
Do you think this is a legitimate turning point for discourse in America, or do you think this is something that's just going to be remembered more as like an individual tragedy?
Do I look like I know
really
what
feel
an
like it could go either
is?
way. I feel like if we're lucky, we can just kind of memorialize it and move on and be better from it. But I definitely have a pretty sick feeling that there's a lot of bad repercussions that are going to happen because of this.
Yeah, I think on both sides too. You make a martyr of somebody, I mean, people will do a lot to avenge them.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially the entire Republican side is, of course, not happy, and nobody should be happy. And the people that are have something wrong with them.
Yeah.
Really.
Do you know Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, I do.
And what do you think of what happened to him?
You know, sometimes revenge is a dish best served cold. I hate to...
He died in a world that he wanted.
Mother animals! You liberal, progressive, deranged animals! You are so hateful in your hearts.
Worst things have happened to people. And, you know, when we've turned a blind eye, you want us to erase the Confederacy, you want us to erase all these different things, but why should I have more sympathy for something that you don't know pain, really. This is the worst thing you could think of. You don't understand what other people have gone through.
Do you think this could be a powder keg moment that starts like an internal major civil dispute between right and left?
Probably nothing more than what we've seen since 2020.
Same shit.
Yeah, same shit.
Damn smart. Okay, yeah, I agree. Again, the rhetorical satiation, it's at its like maximum point. If you can't really do anything more when the right's already calling for death camps and civil war every day. It's really just like, are they willing to commit and expend whatever political capital would be necessary to fully like invoke fascism? And they've been like dancing on the edge for a while now. They're making steps, but you know.
Different story. I mean, I don't think anything like, you know, we had the George Floyd, we had the January 6th. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be anything more than that yet. Here's the only time we're going to have real civil disputes is when we are starving. Yeah. You know, when we lose access to clean.
Okay, well, hold on. I'm liking this guy actually. I think that his assessment is correct. I think materially, like the reason the Civil War never happens is because everyone's comfortable. Like for the most part in America, people get their meals and people get their paychecks and the electricity works and the water works and everything. So you're basically waiting for the contradictions to mount to a point where people's basic necessities break down. And then all of a sudden, when people's lives are literally on the line, that's when life gets a lot cheaper.
Water. When we lose access to electricity, you know, that's when things change. But right now, we're comfortable, right? Yeah. And that's ultimately, this is going to make people upset. You know, sure, it is going to create more tension between the left and the right. However, it's unfortunate that we even see in this two-party democratic system anyways.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point about basic necessities being met. Like, people can talk a tough game about Civil War, but until people are like, can't go to 7-Eleven, they're not really going to kill anybody.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's just not going to happen.
I think that's true.
It basically has to get to the point where you have more to lose by not doing anything than doing something, right? That's all. That's what it's going to take, you know?
Do you think that events like this will make people more scared to interact with their political opposition in a public forum?
Sure. I mean, obviously, for sure. I was at there was a protest well, there were two protests, one in Provo and one in Salt Lake. It was the No Kings protest. And I went, and my mom was so scared. She's like, do not go. Why are you doing this? And I was like, I have people that I care about who are, you know, undocumented. Like, this matters to me. And then there was a shooter at Salt Lake and someone got killed.
In the middle of a No Kings protest that brought thousands of demonstrators downtown, sudden gunfire stunned everyone.
He fired several shots. The crowd dispersed. I got to cover.
And it's like, how can I really blame my mom? You know, like I can't be frustrated at that inclination to be terrified to go outside, to have some sort of discourse. Like sometimes I think about it. I'm like, I know someone who's right near the person who got shot at Salt Lake. I was right near Charlie Kirk, and my high school alma mater, the one that my brother went to, got shot while he was there. Like, it is crazy how many events I'm a part of, and I don't think I'm necessarily an anomaly for that. And that's sort of the point of the video that I was trying to make, was that when you have 6,000 data points of of mass shootings that happen in America, you could pick anything that you want out of that. Like, that's an overwhelming amount of constant shootings. that occur over and over and over and over again. And it's horrific that I was trying to point that out. And Charlie died.
Well, he died while like obfuscating the issue. He was trying to make a point about the transgenders being violent and then about the blacks being violent. He doesn't want to talk about gun violence as a broad subject because it's more expedient for him to use it as a wedge against minority groups.
Did the gravity of that situation immediately sink in for you? That you were the last person to talk to him?
Took a while, for sure. I was driving away. My wife and her sister and her mom were on campus and they found us and they drove away, and she turned to me and she said, you're gonna be on every news station in America tomorrow. And I was like I don't know if I realized it until right then that I was like, no, that was me. That was like, I don't know, maybe I'm just being paranoid, but I'm like, dude, the F, like, I read too many comments on some video about me that was like, dude, this guy's in on it. He was asking about shootings right when the shooting happened. Like, let's go get this guy.
I mean, every mass shooting or assassination is like a powder keg for conspiracy theories. Because everyone's paying attention. It's got all the elements that, there's an old Joseph Pulitzer quote that's, if it bleeds, it leads. And so everyone wants their own conspiracy. I've seen people blame every single type of person in the world for what happened.
Totally.
All right, let me tell you why I don't think it was a crazy leftist. Because there was hundreds of people there who had the same exact political views as Charlie Kirk, but they only killed one person. They only killed Charlie.
I don't think that's necessarily good analysis. Even if it was like purely politically partisan, you would like, there's a huge difference in terms of setting a message between an assassination and a mass shooting, right?
If there was other people, like,
it's fine.
Well,
We're
you
great
see
on
with, like, a lot of
averages.
deranged, like these transgender shooters who've been going around.
Oh.
They kill as many people as physically possible. This guy.
Wait, hold on. Is this guy like a chud? I figured he was because of how he looks, but he was cooking earlier. Is he like honestly, this makes me appreciate the earlier take even more, because now it's like his earlier take was correct and he made it despite being a chud. Like, he arrived at a correct position despite an enormous cognitive handicap. Like, you guys arrive at stupid positions despite being leftists. Honestly, this is embarrassing for you guys.
Whoever he was had the leverage, the vantage point to take out as many people as he could have. But no, he just took one person. It was a one and done, and that was it. And that's why I don't believe it was someone who was a radical, like just a leftist radical acting upon his own. I think this was a professional job.
Yeah.
There is a tweet out there. I'm not sure who tweeted it. I could fact check it real quick. Who's talking about the Israeli government killing Charlie Kirk because he was having some second thoughts or something like that. I think that is a possibility.
Jeffrey Epstein was not a financier. He was not a hedge fund manager. Jeffrey Epstein was a key player in a multi-decade blackmail operation against the most powerful people on the planet.
Along with Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson changing their views on Israel. However,
well, he was all three. Like, those aren't mutually exclusive at all. You can be a financier and also a participant in a blackmailing scheme. Those are related.
Charlie Kirk received quite a bit of money from AIPAC to support Israeli interests in the United States.
I've been to Israel twice. I love Israel. I love Israel, the place. I love Israel as it protects access to biblical archaeology.
So hopefully, and it's not a good thing he's dead. I'm not going to say that, but hopefully he died because he came to his senses and did the right thing and put America's interest above Israel's, not the other way around.
What was the security situation on the ground?
Wait, what? Is he suggesting that Charlie Kirk felt bad for being a Zionist shill, so he orchestrated his own hit? I don't understand what the implication was there. He's saying Mossad took him out because he, like, internally stood against Israel or something? That's crazy. That's crazy. Dude, he's operating with such a cognitive handicap and he still mocks you guys. People in chat are being like, oh, civil war, they're going to come after us. And he's like, no, I think you need to analyze the material conditions and recognize the fact that usually it's when you see a breakdown in people's basic needs that people are willing to turn to violence. Also, I think the Jews did it, and the transgenders are shooting people nonstop. Like, he's mocks you guys.
Here's the thing. There was huge pros and cons. Huge pro, a lot of security guards, a lot that were directing me in specific places. But the con is it was fully open, like anyone could wander in. And also there's rooftop access at UVU, which is like I don't know. I think that the shooter is suspected to be a sniper on one of the roofs. For some reason, this makes people think that I'm in on it, that I was a Mike, or I was a I don't even know what a mic is. I learned that term two hours ago.
What is it?
I don't know. I think it's like
is it like some sort of
I don't know. I kept saying
for liberal?
No. It was like I was shouting a call, and I said,
oh, like you had a code word?
Yeah, like I had a code word, and because I was talking about shooting, so they're like, that's
like,
got to be
time to
it.
go.
And I also said I said great right after responding to him, and I think I don't even know why I said great. I think I was just like,
it's a high pressure situation.
Yeah.
Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
Well, I was like, maybe it was just like, let me think about this for 2
It's like being on stage during a talent show when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Like, think you're gonna kill it, but you don't know what's gonna happen once you get up there.
And it's like I try to be prepared for sure, but it's like a stalling technique maybe, or like, I mean, I knew what I was gonna say next. I was whatever.
How do you think we can prevent things like this in the future?
Well, first of all, I'd say that a very respected leader in our community said that conflict is inevitable, but contention is a choice. And we're helping ourselves when we choose to not be offended. So respectful.
Wait, what? What? Wouldn't it be the opposite? Contention is the thing that happens no matter what, right? Wait, am I getting my definitions? Contention just means like you disagree. Conflict is when the disagreement reaches a some kind of like a contention just means an argument you put forward. Did he get it mixed up? Contention is inevitable. Conflict is a choice. I think he might have gotten it mixed up.
And civil dialogue in social, civic, and religious circles is not just going to help us from the outside in, but from the inside out.
What do you think could have been done to prevent this situation?
I don't know. Because I'm always so worried. I'm such a math nerd sometimes that I'm like, well, this was still a statistical outlier. Like, and maybe it was. Maybe I think everyone always has these answers.
You'd really think the blaming Merrick Garland thing would have taken more root in liberals. Like, for people who love institutions so much, you'd think it'd be so easy for them. We failed to prosecute the right for attempting to overthrow the government, and as a consequence, we enabled an era of political lawlessness, where we essentially signaled like political violence is an acceptable way of moving the country in a direction that you want, you know? But they never mentioned that.
But it's also like, we have the least amount of violence than we have ever had in the history of Earth right now. We are probably doing something right. 300 years ago, every country was at war constantly until like World War II, where we're like, let's freeze this. We got to just chill the fuck out. And like, whatever, it's not perfect by any means. There's absolutely more work we can be doing. But like,
this isn't necessarily good analysis. The fact that the death rate is low broadly and in this country doesn't really bear on the subject at hand.
Who has all these answers? I mean, Charlie's answer was like, let's bring back up mental asylums. I'm like, I don't know if that worked in the 1800s. Like, I think you're scrambling just as much as we are. Like, I'm not trying to pretend like I have these answers on how to fix all this. Maybe it is that there are...
He's not scrambling. That's not...
insane people. There was the, I'm sure you know about the stabbing of, that Charlie was talking about a lot. That was his last tweet. It was the stabbing of someone on the
light rail in Charlotte.
Yeah.
What a legacy, man. His very last tweet. If we want things to change, it is 100% necessary to politicize the senseless murder of Irina Zarutska, because it was politics that allowed a savage monster with 14 priors to be free on the streets to kill her, only to be slimed by a white man.
It was on the light rail in Charlotte.
Yeah. And they're like, dude, they should have locked him up. And then you look at his priors, he's like, okay, well, he was in jail for like 7 years. Should we have just like thrown away the key? Like, some of these priors are like, he stole something. Should we just lock him up then? How do we prepare? Like,
buddy, he doesn't care. He just hates blacks. He's a white nationalist. Why are we pretending? What the fuck? It's not like hardcore lefty analysis or whatever. You can just look at his Wikipedia page. It's not subtle what he believes. You're not having an argument over ways to reduce crime. He just uses crime to justify white nationalist positions. If somehow magically all of the 40 million black people in America, give or take, committed no violent crimes, it wouldn't change the underlying politics. It wouldn't make a difference to him. He would think of something else. He would talk about the rap music or the sagging pants.
Like, I don't know if the answer is we should just be okay with knowing that there are completely antisocial people who walk amongst us and might lash out at any moment. But I don't...
You literally just assumed he's racist because of his beliefs? Yes, I assume Charlie Kirk is racist from his belief in racism. That is true. That's usually a dead giveaway.
I don't know what we should be doing about that, and I haven't seen a compelling answer.
I mean, one thing that I've heard is like more readily available psychiatric services.
Sure.
Gun reform.
Sure.
Mass buybacks.
Yeah. I'm in favor of all of those things, but I also know in my ideal world where I have all of the policies.
Does anyone else remember when there were those Haitians in like Ohio who did nothing wrong? And then the vice president of the United States, then in what he later acknowledged was a straight up lie, made up and propagated a story about them killing and eating pets, and it was based on nothing, and that group of Haitians was actually stimulating the economy of that town, and they were legally there, and the literal only reason they did that was because they were black. Do we seriously think that we're doing this because of crime? That was just one of an innumerable list of, like, it's just the skin color, man. It's just the skin color.
I'm sure that a stabbing could happen. Like, maybe that's just the world that we have to live in, but also that seems like an extremely, that doesn't sound like the right answer either.
Right.
So I don't know. I think I get frustrated with the sin of certainty.
Math, bro.
As in, like,
yeah, you can't math your way out of sociology. You can't math your way out of doing politics, as it turns out. Hold on, wait. Let's get this clip from a guy who definitely super duper really wanted to like reduce crime and cared about crime and wanted to make the country a better place.
That means that they're coming across the border, they run a background check or someone knows, and then they say, just have fun. That's what that means. That means that we know who they are. And then we just release them into the interior and say...
It just shocks me, like, the level of control you can have over media narrative that, like, you know, the New York Times or whoever can blow this off. 13,000 homicide convictions just roaming the U.S. as an elective policy choice.
And the election is close. I mean, the election is close. It's very close. And again, there was a poll that just showed up here. Arizona women voters favor Kamala Harris 52%, 43%. And that does not include the 2 million gotaways. And since those are the border jumpers who avoid border encounters, it's safe to conclude the proportion of convicted criminals is even higher than that, 2 million plus of them. Thank you for being a member, and stay safe in Alabama, and pray Trump wins, or else things are going to get really bad. They're going to get even worse. There will be hundreds of thousands of Haitians brought into Alabama, and they will become your masters.
Trust me, he's really concerned about the crime data. He was like this every day on his show, man. Every day. Like, what's insane to me is like, okay, so you're like a liberal data math nerd. How are you not aware of what Charlie Kirk believes? Like, you went in person to talk with him at a thing. Like, don't you know? He doesn't care about the crime rate. He likes crime if it kills blacks and not if it kills white. Like, he's not, like, everything he believes, all of it is subordinate to a greater belief in white supremacy. Or at least that's the doctrine he follows. Maybe he personally doesn't care and it's all a grift, as opposed to it being like selectively a grift. But like, why are we pretending that this is about reducing the crime rate?
Solution, if we do this, things like this won't happen again.
I watched it like in a movie recently. I just really like that term, the sin of certainty. Like,
sounds cool.
Yeah, it was Conclave. It was a pretty good movie.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I don't know. And like, whatever. I respect a lot of Charlie. I'm so sad. He was a very certain person, and I disagreed with that. I think that we can move forward a little bit more uncertain.
I think we should have less gun laws, not more. I know people disagree with this. I even think that we should bring back, public executions on certain people. No, but think about it.
I'm sorry. It's not a real argument against him. It is ironic, though.
I think that, and you guys should laugh, it should be public, it should be quick, it should be televised. By the way, you could force the government to watch it. You could have like brought to you by Coca-Cola.
Like, again, he likes evil. I don't know how else you can put this. He gleefully, there's a billion clips of him laughing about being evil. It's not subtle. It's not a lefty analysis thing.
I definitely saw a lot of his enemies, his political opponents, instantly spun it into an issue of gun reform, which I think in theory sounds cool. But I mean, we have 380 million Americans. I think we have more than 400 million guns already in civilian hands. So this whole idea of even reforming that, guns are here to stay. And there's counties and states that are always going to have guns available at gun shows and at pawn shops and gas stations and Walmarts and flea markets. And that's just the truth. And you can't walk back something that's so deeply embedded into our culture.
Right.
So that's a very sin of certainty thing where it's like, oh, there's a big shooting, gun reform. Let's advocate for it. It's like, what?
Yeah.
The guns are already here.
Right.
You can
and it's like, as much as I love to talk about mandatory buybacks, I think that sounds really good and it worked for a lot of countries.
I don't care about the gun angle on this at all. He was killed with an ancient hunting rifle. Literally, what the does this have to do with gun policies? I'm way more concerned with the erosion of our constitutional rights and our democracy, because like addressing gun violence in this country is mostly going to be done by making our country less crazy, and then to a lesser extent like slow changes to the constitutional interpretation of the Second Amendment. You know, that's realistically what can happen. But the assault to our democracy is immediate, and it's happening on like a day-by-day basis. It's going to take centuries to scrub the number of firearms in this country, okay? But like right now, there's a fight that's happening moment to moment.
But also, it's like, dude, have you met some of these Americans? Like, you are asking for a Waco, Texas in every county in America.
Totally.
Like,
see, with our ARs, we're citizens. Without them, we'll be slaves. They're not assault weapons. They're sporting weapons. It's necessary to protect my family from tyrannical government.
Why do you think there are
Of course, when the tyrannical government comes, they're all in favor of it, obviously.
so many mass shootings?
Because that's what's on the agenda for the left.
I don't know. Not like I have a better answer, right? Like, I do think that having more guns than Americans in America is probably going to be, we're going to be a little bit more prone to gun violence and mass shootings, and that's terrifying. But also, I don't know what the answer is. And like, I think that people just have these easy answers without thinking of the like larger implication. Like, for example, someone said recently, like, I was talking to this guy, this really good friend of mine. I don't want to shit talk him too hard, but he was like, yeah, the answer is pretty simple. Just like, don't give guns to mentally unwell people. And I'm like, okay, gotcha. If someone has a gun, then they're not going to seek psychiatric help, because the moment they get diagnosed with anything, they'll take away their guns. So you are discouraging people from seeking help. And he was like, well, that's not what I meant. I'm like, I know that's not what you meant, right? Like, I get that. But also, these things are hard, and I don't know what the answer is.
All Americans are mentally ill. True, being American is a mental illness, which makes this whole thing that much more complicated.
Very often.
There's a big problem too, where everybody wants to be right, especially when you have reactionaries and commentators and ideologues with their own social media platforms, and so they're rushing to have the hottest take.
Sure.
And I saw it in a little micro way, like whenever I dropped the Hunter Biden interview, it was just like conservative media, including Charlie Kirk and the president of El Salvador and Bill O'Reilly and all these people that seemed like larger than life to me at the time, were moving in lockstep. Like, one person sets the narrative, like, he's using the F word a bunch and he's talking about crack, and they all follow that thing.
Totally.
And I saw it happen so fast with Charlie, and it just felt so selfish to me as a news consumer. I'm just like, why is everyone rushing to like announce this as fast as possible and figure out how to make this situation serve their agenda? Totally. I took a great course in college called The Sociology of Disaster, and a similar thing happens during natural disasters. Katrina, Hurricane.
I disagree with this. For one, it is the way the news works now, everywhere in the world, on every side. The idea that there's some kind of like moral superiority to abstemiousness is ridiculous to me. If you decide not to talk about things that are happening, then the right is the only side that gets the immediate, like, they get to rule the conversation. What do you gain from this?
And when something bad happens, different political agendas latch on to certain details of it, and they use it to run their own little mini news cycle. And I feel like you'll kind of be able to cut through that for people because you're just a guy who was there.
Sure.
And so, are you doing okay?
I don't know. I remember thinking walking away from that, like, dude, that's a memory that I'm never going to forget that happened 10 seconds ago. Like, I remember thinking that walking away. I'm like, that's a thing that I cannot forget. And it's a very weirdly like prescient thing to be thinking about as I'm trying to find my wife in the crowd of people. But like, I was thinking that. And it was hard. Like I was definitely trying to like I was keeping it in, and we got a call from the hospital that we had to go see my daughter like 2 seconds after we were sitting in traffic as everyone was piled in. It's like, oh, now we got to go to the hospital. And I get there and I misread the charts and I think that she's doing a lot more poorly than she is. And I'm like, I like break down in the hospital. I'm like, that is, I don't think that I can handle today. Like I feel like an emotionally.
I feel like the rest of this might be a little bit beyond the scope of political analysis. We have watched quite a bit of it.
Put together. Grew up in LA, but I moved here because, I mean, that was his goal.
Yeah, the rest of it seems pretty personal. Not to say that's not like worth watching or not interesting, just it's not something that I have much to say about. I feel bad for him. I do too. Like, I mean, my griping doesn't really like get in the way of that. I know we've done a lot of like griping at liberals today, but it doesn't change that underlying fact. We gripe a bit. We love our griping here. We do love to gripe.